In order to see these emails in a development environment, we have to update development. That's in config environments development. So let's look at that here. Config environments development. So this section here, we're going to configure the action mailer. Let's configure it to raise delivery errors if it can't deliver anything for any reason. And then we need to say the delivery method is test. We don't actually want to send emails here in development. We'll see that they show up in the log though. And then let's give it a host. This is just a local variable. The config is the next line I'll show you. We have to tell the system what the host is for the emails. So I'm just going to create a local variable called host. And in the tutorial it says example.com, but it should be what your actual URL is. So in this case, look at the example application, it should be this. Whatever this is for you. So it'll differ for you, but that's what it is for me. If you're running locally, this should just be localhost 3000, probably. Now this is all pretty abstract, so it would be really nice to be able to preview these emails. And in fact, Rails has this. Let's take a look at our test directory here. Test mailers, there are actually previews generated. So here's our user mailer preview. You can see it says preview this email at localhost 3000 / other stuff. So this is localhost 3000. In this case, I'm on the Cloud IDE, so I have to replace that. But this is great, the idea that we can preview these emails. In fact, let's go to that URL. You see that we get an error because in here it's calling user.account or user mailer.account activation, but in fact our account activation requires that we give it, where is it here? Requires that we give it a parameter, which is the user. So over here we can just change this up and put in a user, but of course that means we need to define a user. So let's just pull out the first user from the development database. Save that. This won't work. See if you can guess why this won't work. If you look at the mailer, something's not going to work here. We just pulled the user out of the database and refresh it. This is pretty tricky. You can see that there's a route problem, having a problem generating the route from this named route, the edit account activation URL, which might make you think that there's a problem in the routes file, but the routes file is correct. Right, we've got our resources account activations only edit. So if we drill down a little more though, we can see that the problem is that we're missing a required key, which is ID, and the ID is nil. So that ID is the analog of this this /1, this /user/1. So what's happening here is that the activation token is missing. This thing here, this ID, is missing. And the reason for that is because here in the mailer, you can pick either of the mailers, we need an activation token here. But remember, this is a virtual attribute. So when we pull the user out of the database, it doesn't actually have an activation token. Now, that won't be a problem when we're using this for real, because it will only be used for new users, and because of this callback here, every new user will have an activation token. But in this case, we have to give this user an activation token. We'll consider it equal to just the new token. Doesn't matter what it is, really. So this looks promising. This might actually work. Let's take a look. Nope. Oh, so I think the problem here is that I need to restart the server. It says missing host to link to. Please provide the host parameter, but we just did that here. Right, that's what this is. So it's probably just an issue of needing to restart the local server or the development server. All right, let's see if that worked. And look at that. This is the HTML mail from here. Look at this. This is the text mail. So this is the HTML mail. You can see that the H1 worked, and we've got this link here. You can copy it. Take a look at what that link gave us. So it's exactly the form we were hoping for. It's the domain, and then account activations, then the token, and then edit question mark email equals example, in this case at railstutorial.org. You can also look at the text version, view as plain text. So at this point we still haven't sent any email, but we're starting to believe this is really promising. We actually have working email here, these previews.